Every medical advance helps, we hope. They're all worth knowing about because right now, really our main weapons against this pandemic are repurposed old medicines and extreme social distancing measures, measures that have wrecked the economy. So if we could develop a safe, effective vaccine against this virus, we might be able to get back to normal. Developing a vaccine may be the single most important project going on in science right now. If we could get it quickly and avoid future shutdowns, that would save trillions of dollars, millions of jobs, maybe tens of thousands of lives. So who is in charge of this all-important operation? Well, Kizzmekia Corbett is an immunologist with the Vaccine Research Center. That's a division of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the center run by Dr. Anthony Fauci. Corbett has been described to the press as the country's, quote, lead scientist for coronavirus vaccine research. Back in January, the New York Times characterized Corbett as, quote, the scientific lead for the coronavirus team at the Vaccine Research Center. Now, there is evidence that Corbett is qualified for the job. Her research career has focused on developing vaccines for different coronaviruses, including SARS. That's good. But there are worrying signs about Corbett's commitment to scientific inquiry and rational thought. Corbett has been an active presence on Twitter. She's tweeted at least 17 times just today. On Twitter, Corbett has endorsed bizarre theories, and we're not overstating that the virus is being used to murder black Americans intentionally. Quote, some have gone as far to call it genocide. I plead the fifth. Now, right now, African Americans are dying at higher rates of coronavirus. The Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, who is an African American, said last week that maybe because black Americans suffer more from obesity, diabetes, and other ailments that may increase their risk. Corbett apparently disagrees with this. For her, white racism is the only explanation for the disparity in death rates. After Dr. Adams recommended that black Americans avoid alcohol to protect their health during this epidemic, Corbett retweeted another user's thread saying, quote, Dr. Adams, check your privilege. Stop spreading harmful fallacies that support white supremacy. Corbett then herself commented this way, quote, black people are not dying more because of their behaviors. That is just a cop-out to adjust accountability. She didn't say who was accountable. Now, to be clear, she is not an intern for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is one of our top coronavirus vaccine researchers, and she's agreeing that helpful medical advice is a, quote, fallacy that supports white supremacy. To be clear, this is not about politics. It's not about who Corbett voted for. It's not about her opinions about American society, and it doesn't mean that she's a bad researcher. But presumably, we'd want our vaccine team to worry exclusively about merit and ability and outcome, the questions of science, not about people's skin colors, not about some weird race theory. But Corbett disagrees with that. In a Twitter argument last week, Corbett said that, quote, merit is defined by prejudices. Another user asked if she meant by that, we ought to automatically ignore white men. This was Corbett's response, quote, white men are not to be dismissed, but the systems that they, their ancestors or current, curated are. In other words, if Corbett decides a system was built by white men, then that means by definition it can't be trusted. It must be ignored or destroyed. Once again, this is the person running NIH's coronavirus vaccine efforts. She's received glowing profiles from NBC, CNN, People, among other outlets, not one of which thought that her history of spouting lunatic conspiracy theories online was worth mentioning, and so they didn't mention it. No matter what she believes, or no matter what she says on Twitter, we hope, we pray that her work is successful because it's important. But none of what you just heard was science or even related to science, and it's not how scientists ought to think. It's not rigorous, it's not rational, it's not sane, it's bigotry. If NIH is recruiting people who believe that merit is prejudice and white male systems need to be dismissed out of hand, regardless of whether they work or not, then NIH is not going to be a useful scientific body much longer, because it's lunacy. Just a few minutes before we went on the air tonight, a senior HHS official reached out to say that ethics officials have begun an investigation into this and are taking it seriously. We'll tell you what happens.